Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. I welcome you once again to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, the podcast that gives you, life-changing and cutting-edge information on entrepreneurship. We do our best to inspire, to energize, and to empower you. And this time we have, Mr. Batho Motlhake, who is an entrepreneur of note, who's involved in photography and other areas, which he will expound on in a moment. Welcome to the studio, Batho.
Thank you for having me.
Erra. Be kind enough to share your background with the viewer, what you do, what you come from, and what you're about.
I like to think of myself, I think, as a calabash of art. To try to restrict myself to a particular art. But Motlhake is a husband, a father, and an entrepreneur based in Gaborone, Botswana. I'm mostly known as a photographer, which is one of my lead businesses. Some people would call me a serial entrepreneur because I've got, several things going on. But that's just about it. I happen to be a graphic designer and a brand developer as well. I'm a co-owner with my wife in a restaurant called Quarter to Taste.
Whereabout is that one?
Oh, it's in Broadhurst, by the car wash, Sakakoli Duma, as you approach the railway line.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And in terms of, academic background and training?
Oh, that's a very funny story, actually. So I started off as a kid, I loved drawing. I loved my music. I played marimba at primary school. And then I went to church, a Pentecostal church. It was in the 90s, the late 90s to be precise. That's when I started learning how to play piano. So as I developed later in life, I started playing Modi gospel in concerts, playing with gospel outfits. And as I developed, I went and then went to UB where I studied my economics and public administration. I graduated some years later, and then then I was playing jazz. I was playing with some outfits, bobo, your punas, your no siles, but I was still playing at church also.
Playing an instrument?
The piano.
The piano, yes.
Yes. So upon my completion, UB, I then proceeded to try to maybe, I wanted to do to pursue my entrepreneurship journey. So what happened was,
so you completed degree in
Bachelor of Social. It was a Bachelor of Social Science, majoring in economics and public administration.
Okay.
So I never wanted to work. I've never really wanted to work, and I've never worked a day in my life. And from there, it was something that
your definition of work is working for someone else.
Well, I think we are all cut differently, and I always had a passion for doing something that I believe comes from my heart and comes from my passion. So luckily for me, I wasn't under pressure to look for a job immediately after my studies, but I had a bit of leeway to try to maybe pursue my dreams and my passions. Shortly after that,
your father.
When I am what is with you? I never see you. We'll apply. I hope you're always home. What's going on?
Yes.
So, at that point, I was raised by my father still is a farmer. He's a staunch farmer. So, and then
Cattle farmer.
He's a cattle farmer, but he's also a walema.
Yes, yes, yes.
So what happened was, I think there was a farmer in me also. And then at that point, I wanted to pursue that particular area of my life. And, you know, as fate would have it, for my dad to actually, I applied for a youth development fund, a goat business. Yeah, and then in 2011 I started, you know, I hit it off. Yeah, and then so there was
basically what are you doing with the goats?
No, really next to my father. So you know he has a CD bar, and then I just put my goats there.
Okay,
and then
so you'd keep selling every year or every so often?
No, I sold like 4 times a year.
Oh, I see.
Sometimes I'd sell to Batho Motlhake, sometimes I'd sell to Batho beef.
Okay.
But then I think, you know, it was something that I did also because and farming to me came naturally because
you like me, you're a product of cattle post.
Yes. so you see, so it wasn't something that I had to maybe struggle with, you know, it's a way of life that but it gave birth to my first camera that I bought. So I bought my first camera circa 2012. And then back then it was still a hobby. And then, you know, the artist in me just kept trying to research more and learning more. I bought books, I bought literature,
what kind of camera was it?
It was a Nikon 3100.
Okay.
D3100, yes.
And you used it for?
I carried it everywhere. You know, I'd just be taking random pictures of everything. I'd be attending something and then I'd just be shooting random pictures away. And then, you know, after a while, that was when Facebook wasn't as big as it is now.
Yes. It was
so,
just
you know,
I'd
post my stuff and then, you know, similar something, Batho Motlhake photography. Yeah, and then people started saying, you know, how about you shoot my wedding? How about you shoot my kid's party? And then I had no idea about how to charge or how to price, how to position myself. So it was a very, very interesting journey, which involved a lot of, you know.
So you run in between the farm and the photography business.
Yes, and that's how I was dabbling at Nikidi Ranajalo.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And then you speak of following your heart. In what sense around then did you follow your heart? And why do you believe that is crucial or important?
You see, Mo, I think our in our country. You have to break away for you to do something that you are really passionate about. And for me, it was my art. And I think my art at some point, ABD hit my educational qualifications. And to me, that was about finding myself. It was a journey about finding myself. It was a journey about self-gratification. If you wake me up right now at 2 a.m. and say, let's go and do photography, I'm going to be excited about it. But I don't think I would have been excited about it. Or, you know, I'd come, let's analyze an economic policy at 2 a.m. Then it would have been just a job. But now I'm doing what I love. So following my heart is exactly that. And then I had to do what I had to do, maybe to buy time. But then eventually I found myself in my photography and I'm doing what I love. And it's a beautiful place to be in.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You're a big proponent of Nike statement, just do it. How did you inculcate that into your DNA? Just do it, getting things done. Yeah,
I'd like to talk about my other company, Quarter to Taste.
Quarter to Taste?
Yes, sir. So we just cook the quarter. The quarter, you know, and we are based...
Quarter of what? Quarter chicken?
No, kota ya burotho.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
It's a
quarter of a loaf of bread.
Yes.
Yes.
So you put in different things in there, with chipsy, the Russian, and what. It's like a traditional street burger.
Yes.
Yes. So that's what happened. It was last year, around about this time actually, when the brand was conceived. And we were just going through a difficult time, for the arts,
COVID, yeah.
As a photographer also, the events have gone down. People find no reason and everything is, we're just unsure and uncertain about the future and everything. So we decided to start this thing called Kota to Taste. It's a business that I share with my wife, by the way. We are business partners in that regard. So when we went about it, there was a lot of uncertainty when we started, but I saw myself having to,
Let me get this straight. You go to Choppies, you buy a few loaves, you cut them into 4 pieces, and then you open them up and put these items.
Yes,
is that how the basic concept?
Yeah, that's basically that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's basically that. And then you flavor it, and then of course there's different ingredients there that make it what it is.
I wish you had brought a sample.
I'll remember that next time.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll drop it off one of the days.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what we did. And, there was a lot of uncertainty. We were multi-lockdowning every now and then. We'd go into a full lockdown, we'd go into a half lockdown and whatever. But we started it in the midst of all that, the drama that was going on. But we just did it. So I think it was just a testimony, going back to, I think, my musician life, going back to how I started my photography. It was just the same principle. You know what? You might be uncertain, you might be unsure, but whatever it is, just do it.
What would you say among these businesses is your dominant brand? Which one has the precedence over others, or are they equally running side by side?
I think the Batho Motlhake photography is what it is, because I think I've done it the longest, and I think that's how I'd maybe like to be best remembered, because I've actually been working on the brand for over a decade now. So I've got quite a lot on my portfolio. I've done anything that any photographer can dream of doing, of shooting. I've shot outside the country. I've had gigs, from all the 4 corners of this country. In Pontite, Botswana, in Tutile, Botswana, I've interacted with CEOs and who have you, Lerumo,
Yes.
So, so it's been an amazing journey.
Yes.
And I think that's how I'd love to be celebrated. I'm maybe an investor, a shareholder, and what have you.
The goats and the Kota business, they're still running.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The goats, and it's just a part of my life. I can't. Okay. And then the Kota to taste, definitely. That's something that I'm a part of. But I would. The idea was to do it differently. You see, anybody can try to prepare a Kota and they can do it nicely. But then the idea about there's nothing like a small business. When you drive down the road, you find that there's a man who fundamentally that's the same thing that the big brands along Old Lobatse Road are
doing, yes.
So the only difference is that this man, he's a one-man show, and then that maybe he's doing it with the wrong mentality. You're
just thinking of dinner. That's
yes. But with Kota to Taste, it's a restaurant business, and the whole idea is to scale up as quickly as possible, and then to a part where now we can even own a master franchise and stop dabbling with the day-to-day business of it, and then have it grow in leaps and bounds. So the idea is quite radical and quite big, and we're very, very ambitious about what we're doing.
How have Botswana taken to the concept? How have they responded?
No, they love it. They love it definitely, and it's been an interesting thing, because I think it's taught us a lot about how to build a brand from scratch. That is a very difficult thing to do. I'm responsible for the branding. I got to design the logo. Oh, that's one other thing that I do, by the way.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's my part. The pictures, the advertising, and the brand placement. And then my wife came in, got the menu development. So everything that you eat, everything that you taste there is because of her. And then she manages the restaurant.
Is that her specialty in terms of training?
Oh yes, she's a foodie. No, but it's funny. She's a property. She has a BSc in property management.
Yeah.
Yes.
But her passion is in foodie. She's a foodie.
She's a foodie basically.
Yeah.
She bakes and she cooks.
Okay. John Maxwell talks about a thing called the big mo, which is momentum, and one of the things you want to talk to us about is sustaining momentum. What are your thoughts on the big mo, and how do you sustain it?
I think it goes back to my first point. You know, if you have identified your passion, operate from it, because if you're passionate about something, at first you're not driven by money and returns and revenue and what have you, but you're operating from a place. You see, when I take a picture of you and then you use it as your DP, to me that's my aha moment. It gives me
DP is
your display picture.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe with the receipts on your WhatsApp or on your Facebook or your social media. You know, when people share it, when you know, so over and that comes before the remuneration that maybe you're going to say, okay, Raka Aleboha for covering my birthday party. So to me, that's that. You know, when you grab a taste of the quarter, and then as you go through the juices and everything, and then you give that smile, and then it hits a spot. To me, that gives me that satisfaction. So my passion comes before the money, so that keeps you going because you are passionate more about what you get, the satisfaction that you get from the people as they go through or as they review whatever product that you are selling.
So the money is almost like a side show, a byproduct. It's not really the main thing.
Yes, no, definitely. But then, you know, we are alive to the fact that you know, you are a husband and you have kids, and you have a home to run rather, and a business to run. So of course now I think that's when now your training comes in, which we now talk about stuff like pricing, you know, where we've seen several things like that guy on the Mostra thing. You know, just a conversation with him, Hela. And this is what I'd urge other entrepreneurs to do also, because I believe that with your enlightenment as one entrepreneur, when you see a fellow entrepreneur on the street and then interaction, whatever that you are, see yourself as a vessel, whatever information that you gather, you should pass it on. You see, you shouldn't hold on to it and then just help them with the price. I think your pricing is wrong. What are your inputs? What are your labor charges? Yeah. One way of actually putting it is that, especially for us in the food business, if you were not going to do this, how much are you going to pay a person per hour or per day, per month to do this on your behalf? So, and then what are your inputs and then what is your markup?
We'll go a little deeper into that.
Yes, sir.
Before we leave the question of momentum, are there any challenges associated with juggling different businesses, and how do you maintain momentum when it's not just one business?
There's a challenge. There's a huge challenge, especially when it comes to you being the brand. Batho Motlhake, the photographer, and then I grew a brand called Chocolate Brown. So Chocolate Brown is a media house basically that is Peter. Batho Motlhake is a sub brand underneath it.
Underneath the chocolate.
Yes, Chocolate Brown. So for me to be able to grow my momentum as a photographer and to scale up as a business, what I had to do was I had to grow the business beyond me, because And then they become rumela basimanyana because you want Batho Motlhake photography, the brand, the person. So you can't be in several places at the same time. So now as you start growing and you start attracting attention, you start shooting corporate jobs, you know, that's when now you need to be in so many places at the same time. And then that's when Chocolate Brand came in. It grew beyond me. And then now it's got its own systems, it's got its own things in place where there's a way when a call comes in, when inquiry comes in, we handle it, and then if it needs so many people, we send them over to go and attend to it. And then there's a workflow relay. And then, you know, that's what also now taught me how to build processes and systems around the various businesses that I do.
Okay. Now, you said you've gone the length and breadth of this country and even regionally. I don't know whether internationally as well. What key lessons have you picked up applying your trade in neighboring countries or in other markets?
I think, well, it was just an engagement, nothing different from what I was doing here. But then one of the key lessons that I learned is that, you know, the level of appreciation for the art there, especially in places like South Africa. The issues about pricing, or you don't even have to explain what you're trying to do, because I think they automatically just get it. It's an economy that is a couple of decades ahead of us.
They appreciate value.
A logo, for example, if you are going to design a logo for somebody, you know, but you know, I want to see the actual thing happening. You know, one of my greatest you know, somebody would want a logo that would depict the day-to-day activities. But then sometimes when you want to be creative about, you know, but look at logos like the cell phone company. They've got nothing. I want a cell phone, you know, or something like that. You know, it's just a logo, and you know what you communicate out of it, you know, and how you interpret the brand is what's most important.
So they have a longer history with the arts, or with performing arts, if you like.
Yeah, there's a better appreciation for the arts, there's a better understanding, and also there's a better, what do you call this thing, stakeholder involvement and infrastructure at the arts. Look at us right now. How old is Botswana? 53?
Yeah, 54.
54, yeah, somewhere there, you know. We're a country without a national arts theatre, you know. Originally, how where are you going to be if you want to do if you want to drama, or if you want to dance and what have you? Botswana, the capital city of our country, you know, you know, so these are the things that the challenges that we have, but you have to accept that Botswana is a country that we're just coming out of that mentality of society where go to school and get a job. So, you know, when you're at school, what happens to those who fall by the wayside, but that that traditional dancer, you know, that rapper, that comedian, you know, who absorbs them, you know, and then we need to be deliberate about building infrastructure to support their talents as well.
Interesting. Let's talk about starting from scratch, something that you've done a few times. What is it about starting from scratch that you want to share with our entrepreneurial audience?
Our country is a country, we have a very young private sector. You know, when you look at economies like South Africa, you find that I think about 50 years ahead of us when it comes to brands and you know, when you look at brands like Bonando's, you wouldn't believe what it's a brand that started in South Africa. You know, you look at so many things that started in South Africa, but and then what we need to learn is how to start from scratch. And then starting from scratch, starting from scratch, you know, but we need to also learn how to build and scale up quickly to a point where now you wouldn't know who the originator of the idea Nando's was, you know, but you are here and we have about, I don't know, over 10 stores, close to 20. Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah, and it's become a household name.
Yes.
And we want to eat. Every time you want to eat honoko, but then you have to go back to a point where there was somebody who conceived the idea and dreamt about it and then went about and started. So we just need to start.
So you've done it 4 or 5 times, you know. There's a tendency for people to say there isn't sufficient funding, there are not enough finances to keep us going. What do you say to such people who nonetheless need to start?
I think it's a mentality that we have wa instant gratification mo Botswana. I think it's been brought about by you know, in the 70s government used to do everything.
To some extent, I'm even now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the roads in Botswana were built by the Department of Roads then. And then what happened later was that PPDB, which now were awarding tenders for that, and then who were building and who were doing all of that. So, you know, 1 minute Batho Motlhake, but then tomorrow I'm a millionaire because I just did a road and then I'm driving the latest cars, I've bought a big posh house. So I think that's the mentality that now the business, that's what we have in mind as the youth Bamalatzia, what people term as tenderpreneurs. So you know, yes. So we have that thing, and then because we want our results to be instant, we are very impatient with growing. With growing something, what's the word? With growing it organically. Yeah. Where a customer walks in, and then you have to make sure that this customer comes back again. Yes. But what you want is just instant gratification. So that's why you expect somebody to send you money. By the way, we are where we are without funding. You know, like I said, you know, and that's how you build some of these things.
What do you mean we are where we are without funding?
To taste.
Yes, yes, yes.
We started what we started from our pockets in the middle of an international, worldwide pandemic. So nobody wants to borrow you money. You see, and then I think that's where we miss it as Botswana by the entrepreneur.
And how big is it now? How big has it grown?
No, we only have one store. We only have one store, but we've managed to do quite a lot. We've managed to get machinery, equipment. We've managed to get a container to brand it, you know, and it doesn't come cheap. Yeah. Yeah, you know, so it's been quite a show.
It's picking up momentum, like
yes, no, definitely. But you know, and then somebody out there is going to come and I'm going to use their money to build my thing. You see, and this is one of the biggest challenges still, even the financier, when you approach them, and I always tell people it's easier to say, Remogobe, ke na le semausukese, ne ke eletsa gore e nne shop e tona e nne kana le di branch tse kana. But this is how I've been doing. Then you'd say, okay, no, I think I can jam with that, as compared to somebody who's just telling me an idea fresh off their head, and then there's no
well, we call it traction. There's no traction. There's no proof of concept.
There's no proof of concept, and then there's nothing. There's no financials, nothing, and then there's nothing. Trend. There's no data basically.
All right. You're a branding specialist, either self-taught, but you're certainly somebody who really believes in branding. Can you just tell us about your brands and the thinking behind them, and why you believe branding is such an important component to success? Yeah.
I think, first of all, we need to define branding. So somebody might ask, what is branding? Branding, contrary to popular belief, is not a logo.
It's not a logo, yes.
It's not just a logo, but branding is the overall experience of that particular brand. Sikai, when you walk into a place, you might be attracted by the advert, o ka bona advert, o bo bona the logo and everything. That's going to be brand placement. And then from there, when you walk in, and then your customer experience, that completes the whole thing. So that would make you want to come back. That would make you say, hey, who's working? I need something to eat, something quick. I feel like some good street food to try. But have you tried Kota to taste? Now that's the overall brand, the perception of your product or service. That is branding. So, you know, you need to be sensitive and you need to protect it at all costs. This is why we've seen in South Africa, you know, because they've said certain things about them on social media. Look, it was all just games or just to get likes on your page and, you know, your various platforms. But then you need to guard it jealously because, after all, it's what puts money or food on your table, rather.
So that your idea of Kota to taste and then the photography business, you see them as totally distinct brands, or do you see them as part of a bigger whole? In other words, do you have one overriding brand under which the multiple brands are? Or how do you handle the brand positioning aspect?
I think Batho Motlhake is a photographer.
Yes.
At Chocolate Brown. So the Batho Motlhake photography aspect of that's me, and that's how my personal myself, I'm branded. And then Kota to Taste is a brand that I helped develop and build. I might own it now, or I might sell it. So I'm not emotionally attached to it. Yes, I am. But what I mean is that it's just something that I built, that I helped build, and then we saw the Batho Motlhake photography bring in its skills and the Chocolate Brown. We've done a couple of videos. You know, we're working on something also, some exciting stuff. You'll see it again on social media to be sponsored and all of that. Yeah, you know, and then. So I've seen there's that interdependence, if that's what you were asking, of the different brands that I'm a part of. But then tomorrow we might have an investor about it. Can I put in this much into this thing, and then so that we take it national? You see, and then maybe I might not be the owner of it. I might just be a shareholder. So those are certain things that you know, I'm quite open to, and yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the subject of pricing. You touched on it earlier, but I really want you to explain it in terms of its importance, so that the average businessman out there who's watching might understand.
Yeah, pricing is, according to my observation, pricing is, you know, something that I think we really need to teach, especially because of my close relationship with the informal sector. Batswana baba itirela ka go rekisa mo tafoleng. That's how informal
business,
your, you know, your clubbers, your bobo meba nzamele, baba Rixandijo, excuse me, you know, all of those people, Baba Rix and your vegetables. Those are people very close to my heart because of my interactions with them. And then I've seen that, you know, it's maybe a discussion that needs to be had by among us, the entrepreneur, and, you know, other people also who sell their services. I think part of the reason why they might be in the same place, it's because of the way they brand themselves, of course, but then without that brand and your positioning, you might not be able to charge a certain price. You know, keep putting it blatantly, you might sell a plate for 25 pula because you are just selling out there on the streets under a gazebo. But for the same effort, for the same ingredients and probably a similar preparation method, somebody else is selling a similar plate for 10 times your price.
From a restaurant.
From a restaurant, yes. So you see, those are some of the things that we need to look at, and how pricing is affected by branding and positioning. And then hell are just the basics of but then how did you arrive at this place, at this price rather? Have you considered the labor costs? Have you considered the cab guy who dropelang your other things? Have you considered the actual inputs? So much lettuce has gone into this particular plate, so much meat, so much rice, and then the gas and other utilities, electricity. Have you factored all of those in? And then obotla for my price, and then okay, this is my expenditure per plate, and then add your markup, and then okay, so I need to sell X amount of plates to be able to make this much. So it sounds like it's something very technical, but then when you go to the people, some of them they just do it from the heart. Price
as a spirit moves.
Yeah, you know. So, but I think those are some of the things that really get to stunt our growth as entrepreneurs. Maybe just getting it wrong. So it's an interesting topic that I think
since
can
you
never be
interact with these
overemphasized.
informal business persons, or shall I say the informal sector, how do you train them? How do you share that wisdom with them? And how do you think we should be doing more of that? Are you suggesting seminars or workshops? How do we really get the message across and teach them about pricing?
I think intervention, we've seen some politicians baruta modi kolong baira like the evening classes for bomme ba rekisang.
Politicians?
Yeah.
Okay.
Modipeto homo Rendaba had now conducted the class on Nekahamo Modipeto where he was interacting with Bommeba, not just from his constituency. Yeah, I don't know if the program is still ongoing. Yeah, but that's what he used to do, and it was quite commendable because I think for our economy for far too long we ignored the informal sector. And if you look at the current riots that were happening in Malboko, South Africa, it was primarily because the South African market, the formal business, the corporate world, gobbled up too much of the informal sector. So right in Mokasing, you find a big chain store. So there's no room for that spaza shop to make its own profit. And compared to countries like Ethiopia and countries like Nigeria, where the economy is carried by the informal sector. And I'd like to commend also the Gaborone City Council for changing their stance rather against the informal sector,
keep throwing
law, because these are the people that when you go to every neighborhood, these are just to give you a bit of some perspective. How to has Northgate? There's a Russian church there. As you curve yan,
yes,
where Quarter to Taste is placed. There
somewhere near Choppies there?
Yeah, there's a Choppies Happy Hall.
Yeah.
There are 40 stalls, 40, on either side of the road. Then about 32 of those, Kidi car wash. 32 car washes on one street. It's called Kasani Road. And then there's about 3 tire fixing companies, and then the rest are just food outlets. So it's a big hub. I think the biggest in Gaborone. Jokingly say it's a special economic zone at the car wash. And you look at the nature of the cars that go there. Khasi, they don't match the kind of locality that it's in. It's not in Pakalan, it's not in a mall, or it's not even the Porsche Extension 5. But it's in Lidumang.
Range Rovers,
your 2 million, your 500,000 plus cars. And then, that just goes up to show and then one other interesting factor is that all of them are 100% Batswana owned.
Yes.
So Batswana Bako Lidumang, Bako Piring, Bako Training, Babo 27 have their businesses there. And then every day they go there. Some of them own the car washes, some of them Batlatwa. Some of them, we have guys who deliver a metsi, ba Kosodishani River, but some Traka Matsilonyana. They take that water and then they buy a pompa, so it's a whole hive of activity. And then, last year, the lockdown, it's like those hard lockdowns where nobody was allowed on the streets.
Hard lockdown, which was about 2 months.
These people, no one, they are suffering. Even that place, we go through one of the, it dries up. Because she works under that, so there's no traffic for her. So it's quite interesting to see that happen. So hey, what was the question again?
Yeah, you're really addressing pricing and positioning in that regard. Yeah.
So so we've seen these people by
because I was asking you whether how do we spread the message?
Yes, spread the message.
There's a need to have workshops and so on. Yeah.
So we've seen people buy Gemeleza. Otherwise this would have been people that would have gone into other things, illicit activities. But they're working.
Yeah, you are commending the city council. What was this previous stance of the city council, and what is their stance now?
I think before then we used to see and hear about Batswana, Bakapel, Badilo, the Kawashi, Hotualo, but Malatia, we've seen
they were prohibited.
They were prohibited from trading anywhere. And then the council had these ideas of where to place them. But then these are the people who are at the heart of the city and at the heart of these things. So their positioning. I'm targeting these particular people. So how about market when it's away from the traffic about so it's an inconvenience to both the person and Netland. But then there's a new organization called BUISA, Botswana Informal Sector Association, which has quite big dreams. I've had a conversation with them. The people there, they tell you about their stories from as early as the 90s. They've been at this, they've been hawkers since then. Balakobo BBS, Balakobo stationing, and that's how they've managed to take their kids to school. Prominent businessmen and business people right now, university degree graduates and what have you. But through the program, we've seen other Leah plugging in there.
Leah interacts with them all. What does Leah do for them?
Leah just Malaba was doing what do you call it, a registration, like a database, the informal sector, which again goes back to my earlier point. We've seen a change in body language from the government and its authorities. Now we want to embrace the informal sector. We don't want to chase them away. We want to embrace them and then turn them, because now re Samsonu oba kanyanditlaku. But then even if he makes 150 pula today, he doesn't bank it. So it's untraceable, and then he's not registered. So it's difficult to say when you build solutions and when you build products for these people, you don't know where they are, you know how to find them. He might be here today, he might not be there tomorrow. So that's exactly what Leah was coming in and doing. We've seen also people like Brand Botswana come in and also put in the money's worth. They came up with the brochure for them. They're also running a campaign, not just in Gaborone, across Botswana Botli, the association. Other companies, Badira. So now there's that talk of how to improve our lives as the informal sector, how to, so I believe it will grow from there.
One of the things about you, Mr. Motlhake, is that you run businesses or a business with your spouse, with Mema Motlhake. How is that experience? How is it doing business with your spouse? And this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs may wish to understand a bit more on.
I think as as a branding specialist, you know, I was responsible for designing all of the logos that my wife did. As somebody also who dabbled into business before her, I was her go-to person, you know, when it came to what to do and how to do it. So I still do tell her that, you know, she doesn't have to make some of the mistakes that I made through my journey. So and you know, to avoid doing such needlessness. So it was an easy transition because she was dabbling into her businesses, the Goodie Bag Factory and Nawiti Group, which is a property valuation and management company. Like I told you, she's into property development. Yeah, you know, so when she finally jumped ship from formal employment into self-employment, it was a process that she had seen. So, you know, sometimes it's difficult for somebody to jump ship, but then when they've seen somebody work, he seems to be doing well. You see, it's motivation for them. But then it was, but then it was quite. It's interesting now because, you know, and one thing that I really have to appreciate about my wife is that she's never shy of having difficult conversations. You know, we have difficult conversations that I've seen so many couples, you know, maybe slide under the rug. Yeah. So, you know, we have those discussions, and it was easy for us to transcend from being husband and wife to now business partners. Because we do have every Monday, we have a shareholders meeting where we put stuff on the table and then we open that Excel spreadsheet. They be, oh, okay, so how's this been doing? Hagona baby, hagona mahongwana ke, hagona mohatsaka. So now it's investor. And then we have those difficult conversations for, no, you know what, if you're not pulling your weight, you said you do this, and then, yeah. So we've also now seen it also. Well,
as someone who also is married to an entrepreneur, we share business with my wife, especially the sanitation business. What do you think? You think there's an advantage or a disadvantage where the bedroom often turns into the boardroom and vice versa?
Oh yeah, there's that. There's that. You know, I wanna romantic. Hey, what's you know, every moment that you get, you guys are just thinking about business. But I think you have to be deliberate about it, and about how to go about it in terms of you learn how to set aside time during your good times and during your bad times. But how do you balance all of these things? So
it requires discipline and
it requires discipline. No, definitely. You need to create time. You know what? Not every amount of profit that we're going to generate from this particular business should go into this. Yeah, you know, so those are some of the things that we do time and again
to get out of the environment.
And then so that's why we you know, I always urge, you know, your entrepreneurs to build systems and places that even if you're not around, that business can run.
Okay. Balancing your passions, you've got quite a few passions. How is that task of balancing things that are up in the air, you know?
Yeah,
a lot of balls in the air at the same time.
No, that's very true. I've observed that I couldn't box myself. Even at school, I was a member of several clubs. And then I remember the DNT club. I was the school captain, chess team, and I was also in the maths and science fair quiz team. So, one Saturday, teacher rakwa o mpatla go re tournamenting ya chess o mpatla go re quizzing ko ya di regional.
You're probably good at each one of those things.
Yeah, so you know, so it was quite interesting. So I've always had that struggle, and then also being able to identify myself with one thing. Because Articana is just a matter of medium. You know, you give me a pen right now, I can draw. I can also write, you know. So sometimes somebody else would about, but you know, I love the way you take pictures. So, but then you have to find, because all of these things, as an artist like that, they're not always at the same level at all times.
No.
So you find that it's both a blessing and a curse in the sense, in terms that, okay, we pay hakai, but also sometimes when you're heavy laden, you just feel like writing, that's when it happens, then you write.
You have that creative moment.
Yes, you have that creative, and then you want to write, and then come so it's that, And then, like I was telling you, you know, the passions coming together also. You know, we've seen it work quarter to tasty by the fact that I got to design the logo.
I don't know whether you've tried my method. I also call myself a serial entrepreneur, where I try to have each profit center or each major business have a manager and empower that manager and have it as my job to now supervise or to monitor to the extent possible the manager.
Oh yes.
And that helps me, you know,
to be in different places at the same time.
Yeah, so I don't have to be in the nitty-gritties or in the detail all the time. I can afford to spend time with Motlhake on the nuggets, for instance.
Yes.
Yes.
No, definitely. You know, I'm here. The restaurant is open as we speak.
Yes.
So the restaurant is an entity by itself. Chocolate Brown, like I had said, ended up consuming Batho Motlhake photography. Now, Chocolate Brown is a whole formal business by itself with its own manager. And that was a lesson that I learned later. And one of my regrets, actually, why didn't I learn it earlier? Maybe I could have been far off. But then, you know, God's timing is always the best.
Yes.
So, but I'm here. So, like you're saying, that's something that when I talked about building systems and processes around each and every facet of your life, that's the idea that we have to be doing. And the farm also, Helajal.
Which it's really about targeted delegation.
Yes.
Yeah. Leveraging your brand, bring it home. You've talked about it in different aspects, but bring it home, leveraging the brand now.
I'd like to put it this way. Sometimes what you need to do is to grow one brand and concentrate hard on it, such that when everything else that you touch, because now you are known with excellence, your brand is associated with excellence, everything that you touch is it automatically just gets off. So you see, Connie and Shona Ferguson, a very good Kiki power couple that I think I look up to personally, and I've drawn so much inspiration from. Even if they leave TV right now, TV production and acting, and then Connie Ferguson and Shona Ferguson, Batla will set up a restaurant. The Fergusons. Believe me, they won't even have to do much branding around it, because they're just a brand. And then now what's going to happen is that the restaurant business is going to leverage on both of their individual brilliance as the Ferguson films. So what's going to come into my mind is that, you know, so this is a place, and then it's going to be an instant hit, regardless of what price they charge there. Even if they charge a plate 400 pula, it's going to be that kind of a place for that kind of a market. So that's exactly what I mean by leveraging, you know, your brand. And then, of course, bringing in, we see now the photography, it's into quarter to taste. The brand developer coming in there, my wife being the foodie, and then also her cake business also all of them form part of what quarter to taste is today.
Okay. Wow. So that even if you decide to go outside that business and start something else, you carrying that baggage, that positive baggage, and you are able to leverage it into the new business.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Okay.
Definitely. That's why, you know, I have close to 5,000 followers on Facebook, friends on Facebook rather. So the minute I build something, my audience, I carry it with me onto the next project that I do. And I don't take it lightly. I think it's a blessing to have that. And and I'll forever be grateful for.
Okay. Speaking of social media, where are you most active? Is it social? Is it Facebook and any other platforms?
I think I'm most active in Twitter now than I used to be. I used to be quite a Facebook person, but I don't know what happened to. I went through a period where I think I was going through so much growth, and then they became from all platforms. But
became
toned
inactive.
down. Yes,
I
I toned down a bit on all my platforms. But then now I find Twitter very interesting and quite relatable to, I think, the space that I'm in.
Oh, okay. All right. It's not about you. If it's not about you, who is it about?
Oftentimes, we lose the plot more as entrepreneurs. We build very powerful things, very powerful brands and very powerful businesses. And then when a time comes, maybe allow an investor to come in so that I go to the next level of this business. I take too long because I think, oh, no, this is my baby. I started this, and then this is, you see. And then I'm a creative person. So I think I'll always have that ability of building something. So even if today you were to come in and then maybe you can build a different brand, I would look at, okay, no, but how much have I put in, and then we'll try to value together. And if your offer is too good for me to refuse, I'll sell it to you. So if somebody comes here, I'd sell them this quarter. If you give me an offer too good to refuse, I'd say, you know what, gladly, because I believe that you need to understand that it's not always about you, and with the value that you've put in, somebody's willing to pay you for that.
Yes.
And you need to make a business decision. It's an emotional decision. So sometimes we're too emotionally attached to our businesses. So that's exactly what I meant when I said that.
So if it's not about you, it's about the market and the brand. In other words, the brand is independent of you. Is that your point?
Yeah, I think it's not always about you, meaning you might decide not to sell, but let whatever the reason be, whatever reason it might be, let it not be an emotional decision. Sometimes you can find that maybe you need the funds to grow another brand of yours, or maybe to invest into a business, or maybe, you know what, you've reached your age, you've seen better days. You just want to go back and then buy that expensive car and slow down a bit. Yeah. So maybe it's just time to disinvest and then just allow other people to take over. For your kids, it might be that, and then
This is a part of the show, sir, where you get to hit me with a question. Go ahead.
I'm a firm believer in legacy building. I believe that there's a scripture in the Bible that says that a man creates wealth, not for his children or his grandchildren, but for the children of the children. So basically, as we grow these companies, my wife and I don't think we're building them for our children, but we're building them so that the third generation, so Mogobe, I'd just like you to maybe tell us what you are doing actively do you believe in the same thing? Let me start there. Do you believe in a similar ideology? And what are you doing maybe actively to make sure that those that are going to come after you will not squander that which you struggled to put together?
It's a very, very tough question, but a very important one. There are two schools of thought which are raging in my mind. The one school of thought says, if you tell them that all this you're creating is for them, you are creating an entitlement mentality. You are creating a dependency syndrome. You are making them think that you are sweating for them and they don't have to do much. Then the other school of thought is the one that says, you know, these things, everybody has got their life to live. Everybody's got to find their place under the sun and make a difference. I've read that Warren Buffett said he's going to give, no, it's Bill Gates, he's going to give his children 10 million each tops, and that is the attitude he's taken. But then, of course, he's created a foundation, he's created other things so that you've realized that there's no way he can just let this disappear into thin air. So when I say that two schools of thought raging, I mean I'm trying to reconcile them. At the moment, one of my sons is working already with me in the business, so I'm trying to pass the baton slowly and to show them the basics so that they can run with it. But it is always a challenge, because if you take one extreme of either school of thought, you lose it, you know. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle now, where I'm trying to reconcile the two to say, yes, they have to find their place under the sun, but if they're really interested, if they're passionate about real estate, if they're passionate about entrepreneurship, if they want to be part of the family name, they have to themselves want to do that. And then you take it from there. I know that it's important to build a legacy for the future, but I think there's a limited sense in which you can really govern the future. If you create perhaps a foundation or a trust, and you make sure that you put your house in order in terms of making sure that there's a will or something, that is the most, in my view, that you can do. You cannot really control the future. But there are people who've done it successfully, the Rothschilds of this world, you know, the other big names of this world who control great wealth. I don't want to mention people by name. I already mentioned one, that's enough. Yeah. But there are big families that have set themselves up in that way. So for me, it's a work in progress. It's an effort to reconcile these schools of thought and to make it work as best as I can. And as I said, you've asked probably the toughest question that anybody has ever asked me in this program. But I hope I've done my best to answer it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. But I'd just like to maybe add on to that, Kiri. Don't you also think that it's our maybe social obligation as a nation to try to catch up with the rest of the nations out there in the world? You know, I'd just say this to you, you find that you come across, when you go to New Zealand, countries like America, Texas, you find what the seventh generation farmer, you know, where now these guys, Bale Kadi multi-millions of plant and equipment. And then, but when you go back down Monaco, the fathers used to use the ox wagon, you see, and then how are we ever then, don't you think it's important for us to...
It's important to create generational wealth and to pass it on. For most of us, we are first generation entrepreneurs.
Yes, no, definitely, yes.
Whereas maybe our other communities, maybe from India, from other parts of the world, are second or third generation. So we have a lot of catching up to do. So it is very, very important. And what is said in the Bible about the importance of creating inheritance for your children is important. But as I said, I was just cautioning it as a parent to say, once they have that mentality, you know, it's going to be disastrous. So you try and work that balancing act. You don't say, I'm doing all this for you. You know, you give them the idea that, look, they have to carry their own weight, they have to contribute themselves. But yes, the idea is that whatever we're building, we should find a way of sustaining across the generations. It's an absolutely laudable and desirable objective. But I always caution to be a realist. Maybe it comes from the lawyer in me, always saying, but can you really control the future after you're dead? Yeah. You can't. You can't really do that. Yeah. All right. Now, this is a part of the show where you look at that camera. Which one? That one? and speak to that
That one.
that viewer and leave them with words of inspiration and motivation. Your parting words, sir.
My parting words. I'm a firm believer in business, and I believe that we are all here on this earth with a purpose. You know, sometimes we don't have to be the originator of the ideas, but sometimes people who can come up with ideas need people who can actually come in and invest them, people who can give us advice, or people who can be on the other side of the counter to buy whatever good or service that we are building. So as I'm here today, the Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, you know, I think it's a platform that I really appreciate for such a time like this, where we are trying as Botswana now and start brands of our own. So I'd like to urge you, Ule Motswana, wherever you are, to look around you, that person who's trying something, offer them a piece of advice. If you're in the office, more hear advice from from an 8 to 5 point of view, and then don't be shy to support local, and don't be shy to be part of the success story in any small way that you can be.
Okay, that's great. Now be kind enough to share your contact details, or whether it's social media, WhatsApp, so that if these people want to carry the conversation further or to learn from you further, they can get in touch with you.
Okay. Batho Motlhake. Batho Motlhake on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, everywhere. It's just my name. Hawana the underscore, hawana the hashtag. And then my numbers are 7186-7301. That's about it.
So Motlhake, we thank you so much for sharing. We thank you so much for your generosity and for your taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to come and be with us here on the Nuggets. Thank you very much. Please subscribe, dear listener, and please remain in touch.
I will definitely.
We will invite you again. Please say yes next time.
No, thank you very much for having me, sir. Okay. And thank you much for your time.